Hello. One of the values that the older generation still holds dear is the right to say what we damn well like. Well, Starmer the Harmer has taken us one step closer to state control over what we can say online and the very real risk that any one of us could get nicked for speaking our minds. And if you were ever in any doubt that this government wants to shut you down and prevent you from speaking freely, then here's the proof. Welcome to Grey Matters. Hello, and welcome to Grey Matters, the channel that promotes the fact the older generation still matters and has relevance, and which looks at issues that matter to the older generation. And talking of generations, mine was lucky enough to have just missed the last World War, but our parents and grandparents had to live through it, either fighting or surviving back home. Many people lived in abject poverty during the early 1900s, and it was only a little better in the 1930s and 40s. But they were tough times, but they bred tough people. And since then, we've seen the emergence of, how should we put it, less robust, easily offended generations that by shouting loudly and making baseless accusations of homophobia, transphobia, racism and so on, are causing our freedoms to be diluted to the extent that they virtually have no flavour at all. We look back at how our parents, our grandparents and great-grandparents in particular survived with no proper heating, plumbing or the means to keep food fresh. Not to mention the strict rationing during the last war. Now these new generations, compared to those times, have been living in luxury. The majority of today's 18 to 30s enjoy what our grandparents would have called a soft existence. And that gives them more time to worry about first world problems. It's a huge upset if they run out of phone credit, or if the baristas run out of almond milk for their latte macchiato or whatever the latest trend is. And it also gives them more time to be offended. And as we all know, offence is taken. It's never given. Not everyone is offended by the same things. Any of us could say something that one person finds offensive whilst another would find hilarious. And if you're offended by stuff, then by all means say so. But these days, the offender can not only be censured, they can be fired, they can be cancelled, they can have their social media pages shut down, and they can even be arrested and sometimes thrown in jail. Offence is totally subjective, and you can't legislate for that, except you can. According to the Tories who first introduced the Online Harms Bill, and this government that last Friday passed the new Online Safety Act into law, well, according to them, you can legislate for it. The big issue here is that the Online Safety Act is actually a direct attack on free speech, dressed up as an act to protect children and young people. Now, before we look at this attack on free speech, let's just touch on the online safety aspect. Unfortunately, Labour's naivety shows how little they understand about the under-18s and their tech savviness and the internet in general. These youngsters are growing up with a life online. They know more about the internet than most people, and they know more about navigating it than most people. And Starmer, quite rightly, wants to keep them away from suicide and eating disorder websites and other dangerous content. Fine, very laudable, but far from protecting them, the Act exposes them to more risk. How so? Well, one of the protection measures is that viewers of age-restricted content must prove their ages with either a face scan or photo ID. Right? But wait, it's not just age-restricted sites. It also covers innocuous forums and fan sites. Soccer forums, school PTA message boards, forums about almost any topic. And according to internet expert Professor Tim Wilson, those sites that don't have the ability or the resources to comply with these measures are shutting down. And as far as I can see, all that does is reduce consumer choice and perhaps in some cases means the loss of vital platforms that keep people connected and which give support to vulnerable sections of society. And I think what this is off the back of is forums in general where you can communicate with people they see as a danger. Doesn't matter what the content of that forum is, if young people can get on there, they're at risk. That's their thinking, I'm sure of it. But what an inconvenience. I mean, would you trust the government or any website for that matter with a copy of your driving licence? I mean, it's a real crock of shit, isn't it? So what's actually happening in response to this age verification system? Well, VPN companies are reporting a record number of new customers since last Friday when the bill became law. That record number equates to a rise in excess of 1,000%. And I hear that many, if not most, are under 18. And suddenly, thousands of young people are untraceable on the web and therefore exposed to much more danger. Now, if you don't know what a VPN is, it stands for Virtual Private Network, and it basically disguises your location and puts you somewhere else. You can choose a country, say America or the Netherlands or Japan or wherever you like, and you will be as if you're located there. And that means if you've got content restricted in the UK to people living here, you can access that content. Now, it's usually done for much less innocuous reasons, for harmless reasons, if you like. If you want to watch a programme on a TV channel over here that doesn't allow you to watch that channel if you're outside the UK, you can use a VPN to put yourself in the UK so you can watch it. I've heard some people do it too when they're on holiday and they forgot to buy their lottery tickets. You can't generally, as I understand it, get onto the National Lottery site and buy a ticket if you're not in the UK. This way you can. So they're generally used for, quite safe things to do. But the danger now is because you don't know where these people are, in reality, they could be anywhere on the internet, these young people. It's exposing them to so much danger and potentially to what they term as the dark web, which is where the real danger lies. So, as far as the freedom of expression is concerned, watch this brief clip from Professor Wilson.
Section 179 criminalises speech that causes non-trivial psychological harm, a term so vague it could criminalise satire, parody or political dissent. Zia Yusuf of Reform UK is right to call this an Orwellian plunge into Chinese-style surveillance. And let's be precise, China's Great Firewall blocks Google, Facebook, BBC and Wikipedia. It uses deep packet inspection and AI to detect and disrupt VPN traffic. It punishes dissent through laws, prisons and sometimes disappearances, and yet VPNs persist. Shadow socks, Office 4, Tor bridges, rotating IPs, all widely used in China despite criminalisation. In Russia, VPN use is still technically legal but subject to escalating pressure. Developers are prosecuted, promotion is banned, and yet over 20% of Russian users rely on VPNs daily to access Western news. That number is growing, not shrinking. Censorship doesn't work. We've spent years and millions on a law no one respects. And no one's going to respect. That money should have gone into education, teaching children critical digital skills, providing support for online mental health and training parents in media literacy. Instead, we're mimicking authoritarian regimes while pretending to be benevolent guardians. In short, we're legislating ourselves into irrelevance while offering an international demonstration of what not to do.
Yeah, I've subscribed to his channel because I find him so watchable, knowledgeable and informative. And if you have any interest in what's going on in the world today, then I suggest you visit his channel and subscribe as well. Now, with this Online Safety Act, the government has actually put the onus on social media platforms to censor the content they feel might cause offence or endanger people. And as an inducement to do this, they are being threatened with fines equating to 10% of their global profits. Whoa! Can you believe that? I mean, that's incredible overreach by the government. And bear in mind that the majority of these platforms are based overseas. They're overseas companies. So what's likely to happen? Well, one of two things I would suggest. The most obvious reaction would be for these platforms to just pull out of the UK altogether, rather than adopt a heavy burden of censorship and financial risk. And I imagine the sale of VPNs will skyrocket even more if that were to happen, as people log themselves on as if they're in the States or wherever, so they can continue with their favourite social media platforms. Alternatively, the platforms will so heavily censor content that users will give up expressing opinions altogether. Wouldn't the government love that? YouTube creators will stop producing informative and enticing content for fear of being demonetised or deplatformed altogether. Now, okay, I know many of our generation long for the days before social media, and I can understand that. I mean, life was simpler, there was less misinformation and hatred about. However, there are many hundreds of ordinary people out there who, through their channels, are able to hold the government, the press, the police and assorted wrongdoers to account in ways that were never possible before. I mean, we used to blindly accept, didn't we, whatever we were told in the papers, on TV, the cinema newsreels, and I'm sure a lot of that was misinformation. But until this internet revolution, we didn't know it. Now we do. And I would argue that whilst I miss those good old less complicated days too, there are also a lot of positives. I mean, think of the thousands of small businesses that rely on social media for their trade. The internet has made marketing and online sales so easy that these businesses would really struggle if they lost access to these platforms because of this Act. You know, the Act also gives the government the power to alter the parameters of their censorship without even having to take it before Parliament. And that's outrageous, changing an Act, or the parameters of the Act, with no checks and balances. I mean, how long before we're in the same censorship boat as the Chinese and Russians? And if that wasn't enough to shut down your freedom to say what you want, this government, you know, the one that apparently has no money for pensioners or healthcare, and is having to borrow billions, is to form an elite police unit to trawl through the likes of Facebook, Twitter and YouTube to ensure that no one is being critical about the migrant crisis or the government's inability or unwillingness to tackle it. And do you remember Starmer the Harmer saying this?
Firstly, I'm strongly in favour of free speech. We've had free speech in this country for a very, very long time, and we protect it fiercely.
Yeah, he protects free speech fiercely. Of course he does. Except when it criticises him. I mean, good grief, this is like North Korea 101, isn't it? How can Starmer and Cooper justify, one, the overt politicising of our police force, two, the expense, and three, this dystopian communistic removal of opinions on pain of imprisonment? And have they learnt nothing from the Lucy Connolly debacle? Who said we don't have political prisoners in the UK? Now, I've survived 75 years without a criminal record. I've not killed anyone, I've not driven under the influence, I've not stolen anything or assaulted anybody. Yet all I have to do now to get a criminal record is to criticise the government's total ineptitude on illegal migration. Oops. Well, what do you reckon to all this? I mean, I'm genuinely worried about this attack on freedom of expression. I've never talked about illegal migration on this channel because in general terms it doesn't directly affect the older generation. Although I heard today, and I've not had it verified, that some veterans have been evicted out of their homes to make way for illegal migrants. Don't know if that's true, but if it is, that's certainly affecting those older people. And do you remember in an earlier Grey Matters I commented that David from Silver Fox Hot Takes had been arrested following a complaint about a migrant-related video he'd published. Now, it's incidents like that that cause content creators like me to self-censor, and that means the government is winning and successfully shutting down free speech. And now, instead of waiting for complaints from the Hurty Feeling Brigade about content they want removed, the new state police service will be going online to actively look for it. well, they've got nothing else to do, have they? I mean, it's not like there's any real crime out there, is it? I really don't know what this country's coming to. Anyway, as always, do let us have your comments. I do enjoy reading them. And that's it for now. I mean, if you like our videos, please do like them, share them, give them a big thumbs up, and subscribe. We do love subscribers, you know. And if you do that, you get more of the same. Poor you. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate your company. Do let us have those comments, please. And say something to cheer us up. I mean, it's all doom and gloom, isn't it, these days? In the meantime, thank you for joining us. And until the next time on Grey Matters, it's bye for now.